The final part of Unit 5 Nurse Distribution Law deals with the applications of the law. Okay, so this was applied successfully to study the association of salute, to study dissociation of salute, distribution indicator, then to study the chemical equilibrium during the formation of complex ion, or I can say it as it is used to determine the chemical formula of this complex ion that is formed when there is a reaction between iodine and iodide ion, or bromine and bromide ion. Okay, and the final application is solvent extraction. Okay, so distribution law finds lots and lots of application in laboratory as well as in industries. Among that, I have just selected the major ones, like it is used to study the association of solute, dissociation of solute, and how it is used as an indicator just to indicate whether the solute is present in the given solvent or not. Okay, and to determine the molecular formula of the complex ion formed when there is some reactions between iodine and iodide ion, something like that. And solvent extraction is more or less same as this distribution indicator. Okay, so let's learn them one by one. Okay, so the very first thing is that to study the association of solute, the first one is distribution law used to study the association of solute. If you have watched my previous video where we were discussing about how to derive the mathematical expression for association of solute in any one of the liquid pairs. Okay, so if the solute undergoes association in any one of the liquid, okay, if the solute undergoes association in any one of the liquid pair, the respective mathematical expression will be C1 divided by nth root of C2 alpha is equal to Kd, or I can simply say it is equal to constant. So what this distribution law states that the ratio of concentration of solute, I'll just write by this side. Okay, so the statement of distribution law is the ratio of concentration of solute X in solvent 1 to the concentration of solute X in what is that, the phase number 2 will be a constant at constant temperature. At constant temperature. Okay, so that is the law. Now this alpha is nothing but the degree of, it is nothing but degree of association. Alpha is the degree of association, and we also defined this. It is the total number of molecules that is being associated is called as degree of association. Now we are going to do some experimental thing, that is, just you're going to form a tabular column. In that, just you will set the temperature constant, okay, like 30 degree, 40 degree, 50 degree, like that. You can just set the temperature, and corresponding values of the concentration of solute in phase 1 and phase 2 is noted. Right, now I want to find how many molecules are involved in association. That is the idea right here. That's the aim. So how to achieve that? We can use this distribution law. We can use distribution law. How that is possible? See, this N is the number of molecules that combines to form an associated molecule. Combines to form a associated molecule. No matters, we can just keep this alpha as 1. If all the molecules present in the system undergoes association, we can say that alpha is equal to 1. Right, we can just keep the degree of association as 1. Now we know C1 and C2 that is obtained experimentally, and by trial and error method this value of N can be 1, 2, 3, 4, like that it goes on. If I just plug in the value of N as 1, and if I check the corresponding output, that is the partition coefficient for each thing, okay, if it is found to be constant, then the number of molecule that combines to form associated molecule will be 1. If not, I am not getting a constant values, instead I am getting some random values, then you can just go for the next number. If I put N is equal to 2, if I put N is equal to 2, it was found that the partition coefficient for each and everything, it was constant. Say for an example 10.1, 10.01, 10.0, like that it was being recorded. So from this what you can infer, you will infer that the number of molecules that combines to form the associated molecule, or I can say it as a dimer, because N is 2 right here, right? So dimer is 2. Number of molecule that combines to form associated molecule is 2. Okay, since this partition coefficient is constant over there, so we have applied the distribution law. The ratio of concentration of solute in one of the solvent to the concentration of solute X in the very next solvent is constant at a constant temperature. Okay, so in this way I can find, or I can study, how many molecules are involved during association. Clear? By using this law. The second one was to study the dissociation of solute. To study the dissociation of solute. To study the dissociation of solute. When your solvent undergoes dissociation in any one of the liquid pairs, the corresponding mathematical expression will be something like this, as we derived in the previous video. If you haven't watched it, kindly watch that. Okay, C1 divided by you will get it as C2 into 1 minus alpha is equal to constant. You can say it as KD even. Okay, so here alpha is the degree of dissociation. Okay, alpha is degree of dissociation. That means how many molecules are involved in dissociation, that is being dissociated. Okay, so when the degree of dissociation of a of solute in any one of the solvent is known, then it is easy for you to calculate the degree of dissociation in the other solvent, since the value of this partition coefficient is constant. Clear? The next application is indicator. Okay, I will give you a practical example. So you have taken a beaker with tap water. Okay, have taken beaker containing tap water. Okay, and I want to examine that whether my tap water contains iodine or not. Naturally it contains iodine, but anyhow we are going to test it. So how can I test whether the tap water contains iodine? I can add carbon disulfide to this one, to this beaker. Since carbon disulfide is more denser compared to water, it will be occupying this region under beneath the aqueous layer. So here will be your aqueous layer. This is your aqueous layer, and this will be your carbon disulfide layer. Okay, so this water contains iodine molecules that are soluble in water as well as in carbon disulfide. The solubility of this iodine in carbon disulfide is more compared to water. So what will happen is this iodine molecule will be transferred into this carbon disulfide, and you will infer a beautiful violet color. This indicates that water contains iodine in it. So law distribution law, it is used to study how the solute is being distributed in a two-phase system, two-phase liquid system, wherein the nature of the liquid is immiscible. Okay, we'll observe a violet color. So this indicates that iodine is present in your tap water. So this is all with the distribution law. So before getting into this fourth application, we will complete the solvent extraction. Just by here I will just complete the solvent extraction. So extraction of solute, or I can simply say it as substance. Extraction of substance from, we can say, take an example as iodine. Okay, from the aqueous layer by adding an organic solvent such as carbon tetrachloride, benzene, chloroform, carbon disulfide. So all these are what? your organic solvent. So we can extract the solute from the water by the addition of organic solvents. Okay. So the condition that favors this solvent extraction is that the partition coefficient, the value of partition coefficient between the extracting solvent, that is all these things, okay, any of that, okay, the partition coefficient between the extracting solvent as well as the concentration of the solution in which the solute is already present, that must be high. The partition coefficient must be high, that is one of the important condition. And the second condition is, in order to recover a maximum amount of solute, we must use excess of extracting solvent. We must use excess of extracting solvent. This must be used in excess to get a maximum amount, okay, maximum amount of solute. So this is with solvent extraction. This is done in a separating funnel. Okay. So now we are going to study the chemical equilibrium during the formation of complex ion. Okay. So for that you must be clear with few concepts. You must always understand the distribution law. So what is distribution law? I am repeating again and again for the understanding. Distribution law is nothing but the ratio of concentration of solute X in solvent 1 to the concentration of solute X in solvent 2 remains constant at constant temperature. So that is very, very important because we are going to apply this distribution law to determine the molecular formula of the complex ion. I will just write the heading L, something like this: to determine the chemical formula of complex ion formed during the reaction between iodine and iodide ion. Not only iodine or iodide ion, you can also make use of bromine and bromide ion also. So this is the very next application of distribution law. So what you're going to take is here this one, two solutions, right? Two solution, iodine dissolved in carbon disulfide solution and potassium iodide. This is iodine, this is iodide. Don't confuse, this is iodine, this one is iodide ion or potassium iodide, you can just write. Okay. So here A moles of iodine, this solution contains A moles of iodine per liter. A moles of iodine per liter, and this solution contains potassium iodide in distilled water. It is pure water. It is pure water. Only it contains H2O. No other ions present in it. Okay, only the distilled water. Potassium, second solution is potassium iodide in water, and here the concentration of this iodide ion, let it be B moles per liter. Okay, now I'm going to shake these two solutions, right? I'm going to shake these two solution. What will happen is there will be a formation of two-phase liquid system. Two-phase liquid system will be formed. Okay, since the carbon disulfide is more denser than water, it will occupy this region underneath this water molecule. Clear? Okay. Now in water you are having what? Potassium iodide. You are having potassium iodide. In carbon disulfide, what is present? What solute is present? Iodine is present. Now this iodine is also soluble in water. So this iodine will be transferring from carbon disulfide layer to aqueous layer. But this potassium iodide is not soluble in carbon disulfide, so there would be no any kind of distribution of iodide ion from aqueous layer to carbon disulfide layer. So I can say that since the iodine present in this layer, carbon disulfide layer, moves to this water aqueous layer, the concentration of iodine present in this water layer will be more. Excess, it would be in excess. So this iodine will combine with potassium iodide that is already present in this aqueous layer to form a complex Ki thrice. Okay, it forms a complex ion, and very important thing is this complex ion is soluble in this aqueous layer. It is soluble in aqueous layer. Is that clear? Okay. Now the concentration of iodine in carbon disulfide layer is A moles per liter, and concentration of iodide ion in distilled water is B moles per liter. Now the concentration of iodine, leftover iodine, concentration of leftover iodine in carbon disulfide layer, let it be C moles per liter. This can be obtained by doing titration for this layer alone. By using the hypo solution, that is sodium thiosulfide, you can obtain the value for this concentration of leftover iodine in carbon disulfide layer. Okay, and the titrating solution must be sodium thiosulfide. Okay, now the concentration of total iodine in water, that means the iodine in free state and iodine in combined state. Okay, combined state. Concentration of total iodine in water or aqueous layer will be given by this formula. Initial concentration of iodine in carbon disulfide minus, okay, the concentration of leftover iodine in carbon disulfide will be the total iodine present in water. So what is the initial concentration of iodine in carbon disulfide? It is A moles per liter. So just you can put here A minus concentration of leftover iodine is C moles per liter. Okay, got it? Right. The next step is the concentration of, so you're going to apply the distribution law in order to find the concentration of the only the free iodine. Only the free iodine, since you are having the leftover iodine here, right? So according to distribution law, just abbreviated it as DL, concentration of free iodine in aqueous layer divided by the concentration of free iodine in carbon disulfide layer is equal to constant. Okay, you can keep it as K itself, right? No matter, it doesn't matter over there. Okay, so concentration of the free iodine in water is equal to K into the concentration of free iodine and carbon disulfide layer. See, the concentration of this free iodine is nothing but this leftover iodine, right? So that will be, sorry, free iodine K into can have it as C. K into C. Concentration of leftover iodine is nothing but the free iodine present in carbon disulfide layer is C. So the concentration of free iodines in aqueous layer is K into C. Then we can say concentration of, this must be moles per liter, combined iodine in water is total minus this free. Total is this one, A minus C minus the thing that is present in free state, K into C. So let me just keep this as D moles per liter. D moles per liter. So when the concentration of this combined iodine in aqueous layer is D moles per liter, then the concentration of potassium iodide, that is a combined potassium iodide in this water, will also be D moles per liter, and the formed complex ion, the concentration of this formed complex ion is also D moles per liter. Why? Because you can find here everything is unity. So for this, the concentration of this combined iodine in aqueous layer will be D moles per liter, D moles per liter, and this concentration of potassium iodide, combined potassium iodide, is also D moles per liter, and this is also D moles per liter. Okay, so what is left over? We have calculated the concentration of these free iodines. We have calculated the concentration of combined iodine, combined potassium iodide, also this one, and the free iodines here also we have calculated. Free iodine in water by using the distribution law. So what is left? Concentration of potassium iodide, free potassium iodide in water. It's very simple that the total concentration of this potassium iodide in aqueous layer, that is B moles per liter. So that B minus concentration of combined potassium iodide is D. So this is nothing but B minus D is nothing but the what? the concentration of free potassium iodide. Free potassium iodide. So with this, we can calculate the chemical equilibrium. So chemical equilibrium is given by the formula. Just I will write it here. So this equilibria is written here again. Iodine combines with potassium iodide to form complex ion. Okay. So the chemical equilibrium constant K is equal to the concentration of the product to the concentration of the reactant. You can also write it as concentration of I thrice negative divided by concentration of iodine into concentration of iodide ion. We have already derived all these things experimentally, right? If you just substitute the values, if the K is found to be constant, then the formula of the complex ion formed will be Ki thrice. Ki thrice or I thrice negative. Okay. So we have completed chapter number 5. Thank you.